All right, welcome back everyone to the Intro to HTML and JavaScript course here on, or rather a series. I wouldn't really want to call it a course, but a series here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about taking strings or lists of the characters and combining numbers with them and doing calculations within your JavaScript program. So to do this is not very hard. It's a little bit easier, I think, than it was in other languages. This language makes it really easy to do. You can do it in one line of code. So let's start off with our function, okay? So we're going to start there. And we're going to call this one, like, I called it calc, I think. It was just meaning calculation. And so if you want to do some mathematical calculation and add it into a string so that you can print out some statements, I would do something along these lines. So I haven't made an ID yet for whatever I'm going to use that for, but it's there. Since I'm thinking about it right now, let's go ahead and come down to body and let's make an input. Oops. There we go. And then, well, that's odd. Okay, let's just get rid of all that and try one more time. There we go, input. And once again, I'm not going to use name, I'm going to use ID. Okay, and then input type, we're going to put number. That's what it's going to be today. And then we're going to say, like, enter your age. I don't know why I capitalized that. I did it intentionally, but I don't know why. Okay, and we're going to call this one age then. That's good. That'll be the ID for that one. And then we'll say, like, we'll do a button. Okay, and the button on click is going to be calc. I spelled that wrong. There we go. All right, there's my button. Okay, and what's the button gonna say? Click here to see how old you will be next year. That's going to be a really big button. It's going to print all that on the button. Oh, man. All right, and on the side of the title, let's see. Year calculator. I don't know. Just making something up. All right. But this does have to do with what we're doing this week. But I want to teach you guys how to add numbers into characters. So say you're going to say something like... let's call it string 1. And then we're going to say, like, this. We'll do you are plus number. Whoopsies, this. If I can do this right. This year. Next year you will be, I need to put a space at the beginning of that as well. Number plus 1. Let's do this. This is how we're going to have to do this to make sure it does this calculation first. This is the most important one. If you don't put those on there, I've actually never done this specific example. I've never done this specific example before, but my understanding, my idea of what would happen, since this is a linear execution file, it will execute from left to right. So it will come up and do all this stuff, and then it'll add number in and then plus 1. So just to make sure that it does the arithmetic first, I put it in parentheses. I believe that would be the only way that would work. I mean, I could be wrong, but I believe that would work. And if you take off the parentheses, it will just add the number first and then add the 1 on top of that, and it just won't function properly. If this doesn't work, because I'm not sure if it will, if it doesn't work, we can add the number first, and then we can worry about that later. So, you know what, as a matter of fact, I'm probably just going to go ahead and do it just for clarity's sake. Let's do it. Yeah, let's just do it for this clarity's sake here. And we're going to say, all right, let next year equal number plus 1. Yeah, for clarity's sake, let's just do that, and then we'll just say next year. And then, because I'm actually kind of afraid that it wouldn't work otherwise. So so here in this file, you enter your age, you ask somebody to enter their age, and after they type it in, you call the calc function, which will come over here and say that number is equal to the get element by ID age. Take that from there. Then it'll make a variable called next year, and then it'll add that 1 to that number, and it says you are number this year, which means it'll print whatever you put in here, 25, or that's what I'm going to put, but 26, 30, and then it adds 1 to it so that next year will print that. And here you are, you have yourself here a character statement here. I once again did not save my file, like I even criticized myself in last video for, not last, but first video for. And then we'll just call it like age file. You can just call it age.html. Enter. So here you have a couple simple ideas that'll happen, and if you click the button, it'll print out and say what it will be next year. Make sure that's saved. Let's pull it up. Let's jump right in. Let's pull this one up and show you what it looks like. Okay, so enter your age. We're going to say 25. Ooh, I kind of like it when this happens, like I explained last time, is when something doesn't work, it's very interesting to find out what, oh wait, I know exactly why. I didn't ask it to print anything, so of course it's not going to print anything. I'm stupid, so we're going to say ID equals, we'll just call it output. I totally just spaced on that, so document get element by ID. And then we're going to say output. No, that is not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. Output. And then we're going to say dot inner HTML equals whatever it was, string 1. String 1. There we go. Now that should print correctly. Let's do that. Over here. Refresh. 5. Ooh, still not working right. This happens frequently to me, but as long as you can just like take a second and look and make sure you're doing things right. Let's see. Oh, I didn't see that. There. I didn't see that I just snuck that in there somewhere. Let's try that. I can't hit enter. There we go. Ooh, oh, right. Value. I told you guys about this last time. Value. Can't forget value. There. Okay, 15th tries the charm. Let's go ahead and go in there. Let's refresh the page. All right, 25. There we go. Oh, see what I told you about this? It did do 251, which it shouldn't have done, but let's go find out why it did that. So if you come up here and it gives you the value back, and then next year is number plus 1, I wonder, did it come in as a, oh, wait, I had it as a number age. Very interesting. It brought it in as a character. So next year was 251. Okay, so I wasn't planning to teach you guys this today, but apparently we need to do it to make it work. I've done it plenty of times in the past. I didn't know that this is the way that would work. So by calling it document.getElementById and giving it this value, even though I called it number, even though I thought that's how it worked, let me look at that for a minute before I tell you yes or no. I assumed that putting number would work, maybe not. I remember distinctly in the past using number and it working that way, but I must be wrong. I must be confusing something somewhere because I'm not. For some reason, it's just not working. It's taking it in as a character, and so when I add number plus 1, it just adds a 1 to the end of that. So that's not working. So there's two different ways you could do this, and this is the way I'm going to. You can put here where I just put this cursor, you can put a parse int, which will take the number that it was put in that text box or number box and make it into an actual number in JavaScript. You put parse int like that, and you put a open parenthesis, and then you put a closing parentheses on that end there. And what that does is in between these parentheses, whatever value is in between these parentheses, it turns it into an integer, a flat integer. I'm also going to change this just so it's just clearer. We're going to change it to age. And then we're going to say this is age as well. Age. Yeah, I just don't like that I named it number. I just didn't know what to name it at first. And that's another tip I would give you about writing code. Don't let variable names catch you up for too long. When I first started writing code in my very first class, I let the name of the variable catch me up for too long. I sat there and was like, oh, what am I going to call it? I got to think of a fancy name. I got to think of something so clever. You don't. Kind of like how I just did. I knew that I was going to put a number in that variable, so I was just like, okay, number, or num, N-U-M. Just throw something in there, and then later if you feel like, oh, right, you know what, I think I'm just going to name it this. You can double click on it, and it'll highlight everything that is named that. You know, I clicked on age, but if you clicked on number, it would show you everything that is titled number. Okay, so you double click on it, you type over it, and then you double click on the next one and type over it, and then as you go along, you'll notice there'll be less and less, and that helps you catch all of the ones that you renamed. But then you can go ahead and rename them once you realize and you think about, oh, that's a good name, and then you name it. Or you can keep it the same, it doesn't matter. But don't let variable names catch you up for too long. They're not that important. So let's come back. Let's make sure this works correctly. Perfect. There it is. You are 25 this year. Next year you will be 26. You can also put a period in there if you want to get super grammatical. You would just grammatic. Is that even a word? I don't think it is. If you want to be grammatically correct, you can come over here and you can put an extra thing and put a period on the end, so that when you refresh your page, you have 25. I can't hit enter. You were 25 this year, and next year you will be 26. So that's the simplicity of, as long as it took me to, and I say the word simple, but to add strings and numbers together. They're not super hard, but just also remember that once you add these numbers to this character array, they become characters. So for example, I was thinking earlier about putting this statement here at the end instead of making one called next year, and then I changed it for simplicity's sake, and then right after I changed it, I didn't say anything out loud, but right after I changed it, I realized that wouldn't have worked anyway, because once you put something here in a string, it immediately becomes part of a string. So now age, whatever this value is part of this string, and I can't change that. If that's making sense. So since I've already done this, I can't change this value that is in here inside string 1 already. I can't do it. You know? I can't come here and say, oh, I want to change that. It's just already, once the code has run, it has run. That might not make too much sense right now, what I'm just saying. But later on, maybe you can make use of that. And I'll bring that back up again later when it's more useful, when it's more applicable to what we're talking about. But for right now, don't worry about it. Just know that you can't add equations or, things like that here inside the string. It must be done outside the string, kind of like how I did here, and then put it in the string later. So that's not too bad. It's pretty simple, not too bad. You can do tons of other calculations as well, more than just plus or minus. So you can come back to this very same file that you're in and just edit some stuff, and then you're good to go. You could also just make a new file, but I'm just whatever. Okay, so we're gonna say cups. I'm gonna change that to cups. We don't even need the string anymore. Let's just make a new string when the time comes for that. We're gonna say cups value. We're gonna call this, we're gonna change this though, just because I don't wanna confuse myself. That really throws me off though, to be honest. I used to use that all the time, so why? Because I've done that, like in past code, I've called input type number and then ID. And then when I pull it in, I'm able to add it together with other things and it came out just fine. So I'm very confused about that. I'm gonna go back and take a look. Maybe next video I'll make like an addendum to this video and I'll explain why or why that didn't work. Or maybe at the end of this video, once I end and cap this video at the end, I can go back and take a look, and then maybe I'll just throw it in at the end of this video an extra explanation for why that didn't work. So we're gonna call it cups, and then we're gonna call this liters. Okay, and then here you would put your calculation for how you do that. So this, we're going to change this now. Now there's another one. It's not int. It's called float. Now the difference between parse int and parse float is that, make sure that F is capitalized, by the way, on parse float. The F right there needs to be capitalized for this to work. Parse float takes in decimals. So that's the big difference between parse int and parse float. Parse int will only take big, like whole numbers, whole integers. So for example, if I come back over here to the year calculator, if I put in 25.5, it's not going to matter. If I hit go, it's still going to say 25 this year and you'll be 26 because it's taking in integers. It's forgetting this last part because I asked it to when you use parse int. If I use parse float instead, it will take my decimals into consideration. It will pull in those. So just remember that. Now we know that they said divide the value by 4.227. Is that what it said? I already forgot. 4.227. I got a great memory. Just kidding. All right. So what you do here is all you do is you just type in cups divided by 4.227. Okay. Hit save. That should be it. It's telling me I have an unregistered version of Sublime, which I do, and I don't care because I love Sublime, and so I'm going to keep using it. So here you have your all together thing, and then you can do this again. Whoopsies. I say that a lot in my videos. Okay, let I don't know, final. We'll say final. Change that to final. Okay, let final equal your volume in liters is, and then you just add liters to it. So now you've done this calculation, cups divided by that, and then you have your liters. That looks right to me. Alpha div, yep. Looks good. All right, let's save this. Even though it's still age, it's not actually going to be a year calculator anymore, but I didn't change any of those values, so I'm not going to. Let's see. So we're going to say like 2 cups. We have 2 cups, and you hit enter. Very interesting. And I see that it printed out a long decimal, and I knew that was going to happen. But now my extension or my step up will have to do with limiting how many decimals you get. So since we did this, let's do 2 cups and see what comes out. Is that the same number? I believe it is. 4.73148. Ooh, 473,176. That is slightly different. 473,148. 314. It's not 14. It does say an approximate result, and that's something you do have to keep in mind when you do this. When you do like the Google approximate thing, it will give you again an approximate. It isn't exactly accurate. Multiply it, I'm pretty sure, as well. Instead of dividing it, you could also do that, right? You could also multiply it by this value, right? I think you could. I think you can. I don't see why you couldn't. That makes perfect sense to me, and it's more accurate, I would think. Hang on. I think that's more accurate. Okay, so I may have fast forwarded all that because that was kind of pointless, but I think I found a better way to do it than what it gave me. It said for approximate result, use that, but since it was so different, I didn't like that. And I thought to myself, you know, you easily could just take whatever the cups are and multiply it by whatever that is. Makes sense, right? And it does. And so I just changed that. That's all I did. I just multiplied cups by that instead, and it gave me the correct value. So I don't know why it asks you to divide an integer of like 1 or 2 when you could just multiply, when this is just definitely more accurate. So this is what I would do if, you know, you wanted to do it this way. So you take your cups and you do that. Okay, so this is going to be the challenge for this week. This should be everything you need to know about this week, doing stuff this week. First off, your first challenge is to, instead of making cups to liters, you want to do quarts to liters. I'll say that again, it's quarts to liters. Okay, so you're probably gonna have to look up what the formula is for that to change it. Actually, let me just go ahead and give it to you. I have it. So To get the liters out of the quarts, you just multiply the quarts by that number. That's how you do it. So your objective is to make a function similar to this one, but instead you'll be taking in quarts. You'll be taking in that volume of quarts, and you will be changing it into volume in liters. So that's your first file. It's your first challenge. Now, a step-up challenge for that would be to figure out how to limit your value to only 2 decimal places. So instead of it being, like over here, instead of it being 236,588, you only want it to print 24 because you round up as well. So 23 to 24, and then just leave it there. Figure out how to do that. That is your step-up challenge if you want to do it. But your base challenge would be to just make a file that changes from volume in quarts to volume in liters. And your second challenge of the day, or your second file challenge, I guess, would be to do pretty much, it's similar, but instead you're going to calculate mileage on a car. So you're going to do something very similar, but you're going to take in 3 values instead of just 1. Instead of there just being 1 value right here, you're going to take in 3 separate values. And now you see why IDs are important, because IDs tell it which value to pull. 3 separate values. One's going to be a starting mileage, one's going to be an ending mileage, and then one is going to be how many gallons you consumed doing those miles. And let me tell you what the formula is for that one. It's not super bad. It's you take the amount of miles traveled, and you divide it by gallons used. That's the formula. A little hint would be to use your ending mileage and your starting mileage and subtract them from each other to get how many miles you traveled. That's how you do that. And then you divide that by how many gallons you used. And that will give you your miles per gallon. You could do this now, like on your own when you go to the gas station. I used to do it frequently. I used to have a really old Ford Ranger, very different vehicles. I had a Ford Ranger, it was a 95, it was very old. I don't have that truck anymore, but I used to have it, and it did guzzle gas a little bit more than other cars. And so I was very intrigued, I was very interested in how many miles per gallon, I was very interested in the miles per gallon it was getting. And so what I did one day is I filled my car up all the way. I filled my truck up all the way after work one day, and I took note of the mileage that it was at on the odometer. I couldn't remember the name of that, of the odometer, and I looked at that, and then I was like, okay, cool. And I drove to work for the rest of the week. And then at the end of that Friday, the end of that week, I went back and filled back up again. And I filled up, and I took note of that mileage right there, that I had the ending mileage, and then I subtracted the two from each other to see how many miles I had traveled. And then I looked at how many gallons I filled up with to fill up my tank again, and I divided by that many gallons to see how many it was. It was really low. I don't remember the number exactly, but it was low because it was an old truck and been used for work and lots of other things in the past, and so it didn't get that great gas mileage, but that is how you do that. And if you want to do that on your own, you can. You can go do that on your own. In the real world, whenever you go fill up, I mean, I know times are tough right now, there's inflation and there's a whole slew of problems, and we're not going to talk about all those problems here because that's not what we're here for. We're here for code. Code is fun. Code is reliable. So we're not going to talk about that, but there's a lot of things going on. I don't expect you guys to be going to the gas pump to fill up all the time or anything like that, but this is how you do this, and it's a great thing to know. It's a great thing to be aware of so that you can use it in your future. So that's it. Those are your 2 challenges for this week, is to make one from quarts to liters and then calculate miles per gallon. And for both of those, your step-up challenges to figure out how to limit your output, the answer that you give, in 2 decimals only. So go out, have fun, and then I will see you guys next week when you guys come back here. If you have any questions, remember to put those down below and subscribe so you guys don't miss the next week's video. All right, I will see you guys later. Peace.